Okay, everyone's favorite part of North-South, right? The Q&A panel? Yeah. So before we get started on the cards, there's a couple topics I wanted to bring up. One, while you are here, many of you may have just received notice of an email where your TOMS downloadable file for CASP has just been loaded, in case you aren't checking your email because you're so engaged. I wanted to let you know that that file does include the rescore that occurred for grade 8. I wanted to take an opportunity to talk about the grade 8 rescore in case there were any questions on that. So there was only one item in the entire bank, and that one grade 8 math item was given to approximately a third of the students here in California. In looking at the quality of that item, it didn't meet our standards, and so we did remove that item. So if a student actually received the item and they answered it correctly, then their score holds. But if they answered it incorrectly, then we did remove that item. That only results on average of a 3 scale score point difference between what their score was before. So we're not talking about a big difference. So if you already have been sharing your data, good. Go forth. Keep doing that. Okay? 3 scale score points. Out of the number of students who received that item, a very small number of them statewide actually resulted in a change in their achievement level. Approximately 20,000 students statewide had their level change. It would only change up. It would only get better, right? For those few students where they had a change in their achievement level, you will be receiving a new hard copy student score report for those few students. So I wanted to let you know of that. The other thing I wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity, and I think somewhere in one of these mini yellow cards, there is a question or comment related to when are we ever going to have a single system? Something like that. I like to paraphrase the questions. So I wanted to let you know that we are actively negotiating 2 contracts right now. One of them is with ETS. That contract will include both CASP and LPAC. So that's really going to help us have a system that seems more seamless from your perspective, from a user's perspective. So that is a giant step forward, but there are certain aspects of that contract negotiation that I cannot speak to right now because we're still in the process. The other contract that we are actively negotiating is with UC Santa Cruz. That is to develop an educator reporting system for our CASP and LPAC assessments similar to what you have for the interim assessment. So how many of you administer interims and have used the interim reporting system? Okay, a large number of you. You should love that system because you all developed that system, okay? We had active support from California educators in the development of that system. We want you to have access to your other tests on that same system. So we are negotiating a contract amendment to allow us to do so. All of this over time, not immediately, not in 1 year even, will result in us having a true single sign-on system here in California so that you'll be able to use that same logon, same access point with different privileges to get into these various systems. So I want you to be reassured that we know that it is a little bit of a pain point sometimes to have to remember all these logins and to have to go to one place for one test and another place for another. We recognize that. We're actively working on it. It will take time, but we do have a plan for the future. So that is that one. Now, this question is, when is the release date for the CASP? I believe that notice was sent out yesterday, day before yesterday. Right now, knock on wood, everyone, please. The release date is scheduled for October 2nd, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that one was easy. Okay, there's a lot of questions on reporting, and it seems like, those people that are watching virtually, it's great when we have these question cards. Well, actually, they're little strips of paper. I've lost some of those. Little strips of paper that come in and said, we had some problem with the streaming. All we heard was $1.50 for a report. So let's go ahead and clarify that right now. There are many options for how you can notify your parents of their students' results starting next year. Many options. One of those options is purchasing a report. I hope that you don't use that option. And if you use it sparingly. That's what I hope. I hope that we use our parent portals and all the work that we, along with ETS and AIR, have been doing to prepare the SIS vendors for this transition. So I do have several cards in here asking about specific vendors. Is PowerSchool ready? Is so-and-so ready? I cannot guarantee for any individual SIS provider or parent portal provider. What I can tell you is that we have talked with all of them. They all get invited to calls that the Department of Education has. We invite ETS to those calls, and we have informed them about the transition. There are a few of them who volunteered to be part of the pilot. Aries is one of them, Infinite Campus is the other, and then the two other are local SIS homegrown systems. So while those systems were involved in the pilot, all of the other providers will be provided with the necessary information for this transition. I highly encourage you to not only attend the webinars that are going to start in early October on the topic, but to really encourage your technology coordinators to also attend those meetings. So as much as you could do on your end, that would be very helpful. So no, you're not required to purchase a report. You can choose to do so if you'd like. Want to take a few? I can go on forever. You can take a few.
I'll take a few. Since you're talking about reports, I did have a few here also. Will districts no longer receive printed SSRs? Michelle mentioned yes, that's true. Parent portal means our SIS parent portal. Yes, that's correct. Will the 20-day time still be required to get the SSRs to parents? Yes, but it may be on site with the parent computer or through your portal. And then starting when, is it starting when they are available in the system? Yes. More about, SSR language. Is any language available of the SSR student score report at all times? It would be English, right? That's available at all times. But it's also, you must designate the language of the SSRs to be generated about approximately 2 weeks after testing is completed, if you want another language. Can student score reports be downloaded as a batch file that includes separate individual student reports, one PDF per student? Yes, in Tom's you could do that. So I'll kind of stop at that.
So while Linda prepares for hers, just another thing, there seems to be some anxiety about knowing whether or not a parent has opened that parent portal and seen the report. There seems to be a general sense of anxiety in some of these. So I don't know about you, but my daughter's school sends those reports home in a backpack. I'm not sure they're guaranteed that I received that. So what I will let you know is that many parent portals and SIS vendors actually do have a feature so that you have access to information about whether or not a family member or a parent has actually clicked on that score report. So we have had conversations with districts who are considering monitoring that and that being a trigger of, okay, after so long, maybe we will send home a paper copy if we notice that they have not opened it after a week or so forth. So that's another option that you have. Please note that we will be adding some web pages to the CASP.org website to help you make this local decision about what is the best approach for communicating. Some stories that we have from some district conversations that we've had and the avenues that they have decided. Some of you may have very small charter schools, and for you, it may be the right decision to continue with paper. It really is a local decision to make.
Okay, we have quite a few questions about the CAA for science. One was, is the DEI still needed? And because we're moving online, you do not need to use the DEI this coming year for the field test. The DEI is the data entry interface. It's a non-secure access point that you used for ELA and math when we first administered the ELA and math for the alternate assessments. So it will be an online, the science assessment will be online. It will be through the secure browser. Also, there was a question about when the training videos will be available, and we're shooting for November to have the training video and certification materials ready for the test examiners. That's for this year, for the 2018-19 school year, but for 2019-2020, it's going to have to be ready in September because that's when your testing window opens. We've had quite a few questions about when do you administer the assessment for the alternate science. It is available the first day of instruction if it's after the September upload. Typically, it's the Tuesday after Labor Day. If your school is in session, then you will have access to those assessments throughout your school year until your last day of instruction. And if your last day of instruction is beyond July 15th, it will stop at July 15th. We also have some questions about the materials. We've gone through 2 pilots, and we've learned a lot through the 2 pilots. ETS and CDE staff have gone out and observed the administrations of the alternate assessments. And again, we've learned a lot, and we are trying to make the assessment as readily with materials that are readily available. If it requires additional materials that are not readily available, we are creating simulations to show that particular phenomena. So we are trying to take that, so you don't have to buy a bag of sand and build a stream table to show that. So rest assured, we are working toward not having to provide additional materials. We are looking at materials that are readily available within the classroom.
All right, I'll take a couple of questions here about the digital library and the interim assessments. Received a few questions asking which Smarter Balanced resources are available for grades beyond 3 through 8 and grade 11. So just a reminder that in the digital library, there are a number of resources aligned with every grade level from K through 12, but any of the resources in the library can be customized by educators to be used for a different grade level. A lot of the resources are very flexible in that way. As far as the interim assessments are concerned, again, while each interim assessment is designed to be aligned with a specific grade level, they can be used with students at any grade level. So, for example, the grade 3 interims could be used with students in lower grades or higher grades. And for the interim assessments, it's not a grade 11 specific interim assessment, it's a high school interim assessment. And I know that we are expecting to hear more from Smarter Balanced sometime this school year regarding cut scores for grades 9 and 10 on the interim assessments. The current cut score for the high school interim assessments is based on grade 11. And so stay tuned for more information on. Michelle, is there anything else we want to say about that at this time? So more information forthcoming on those specific cut scores. have a question here about one of the new features in the interim assessment reporting system, the teacher-created groups feature. And the question is, can administrators view the student groups that have been created by their teachers? And the answer is no, not at this time, unless you are working directly with that teacher to view the specific student groups that they've configured. Question about the overlap between the items that appear on the blocks versus the comprehensives. There's not a lot of overlap. There is some overlap, and the performance task is the same between the block, the performance task block for a specific grade and the corresponding comprehensive assessment. But as far as the other items, there is some overlap, but not a lot. I know Smarter has really worked hard to reduce that overlap. Question about whether there is a filter in the reporting system to filter out interim assessments that are administered in a non-standardized manner, and yes, that filter does exist, so you can distinguish between the results for interims administered in a standardized versus non-standardized manner.
Okay, I have a few questions on the CAST academies and individuals wanting to sign up and finding their location full. Well, that's good news for us. People like our training, but frustrating for you. So we do have a few spots left in Clovis. Don't you want to go to Clovis? And then just a reminder that CSTA did offer to host the CAST academies at the CSTA conference. So if you're going to the CSTA conference in Pasadena, I believe that registration is open. It is a separate registration than just the conference. There is a small fee to attend so that we can make this a cost neutral kind of event and be able to add that additional location. There was a question on whether or not LPAC SSRs are also going electronic. So are the student reports going electronic for LPAC? Like I mentioned earlier, we're in active negotiations, but you will notice that when we start talking about electronic reporting on the webinars, we will be including LPAC with a note that it is contingent upon whatever action the state board takes in November. So I cannot definitively say that that is the case, but it is definitely possible. Several questions on wanting the speaker notes. So just know that when we post the PowerPoints for these, we also want to post the speaker notes so that you can use these to conduct any trainings that you may want to conduct locally. Question on students who skip grade 11. Isn't that interesting? So yes, how students are, what grade they're enrolled in is your decision. That's your local decision. So some students don't go 9, 10, 11, 12. Some students skip. That's okay to some extent. And if that is happening, they're eligible to test based on their enrolled grade. So I do have a question about indicating that parents are opting out of the test because it's not truly adaptive. So let's talk about that for a second. The test is truly adapted, but let's remember that we are required to both instruct students in grade level content and also assess students in grade level content. That goes for all students, even students who are taking our 1% test. So that's a reminder. So it's true that you're not going to get off grade level content, but that does not mean the test is not truly adaptive. So the Smarter Balance tests do adapt item by item.
I'll take a couple here. About completion status reports, are they live or current, or is it an overnight process needed to access updated info? The completion status report are updated approximately every 30 minutes. The two-step authentication is a problem for teachers logging in to take a test. They will need to get into the email each time they log in. No, it's log in to get the code. It's only a one-time per browser authentication. So if we get a new student to the school in 6th grade, will we be able to see their CAST scores from 3rd, 4th, 5th grade? Once we have them in our TOMS in the current year, yes, you will be able to get that. How are scores generated for each of the levels? What parts are weighted? I think Michelle kind of answered this already. The scores are based on difficulty of items that the students get correct. Okay, so claim level data is insufficient in guiding, instruction, and intervention. When will we start seeing target level data on the student report? Well, the target level data is only for groups of students, and it's not enough questions attached to the target for individual results. Okay, you have any more?
Okay, a couple other questions, primarily about the CAST. So when will you receive the downloadable student data file with the preliminary indicators? And it will be sometime in November, and ETS or CDE will be sending out an email when that downloadable student data file is available. The periodic table is a universal tool, and it is available for students that are in grades 8 and high school. And then the last question I have is, will students receive scores for science in 2019? And yes, they will receive an actual score, an achievement level, and an actual student score report.
All right, just a few more questions here regarding the interims in the digital library. A couple of questions about how to access the videos that have been seen today, the KID videos and the Valverde video. For all of those Smarter Balanced videos, including the Valverde one, those are available through the smarterbalanced.org website. Search for Smarter Balanced in the classroom, and all of those videos will come up. As far as the KID videos that you're seeing today, I believe that everyone who registered today should be receiving an email, if you haven't already done so, with a link to those videos. I know I already received mine. So, a question about what the administration and registration tools interface is used for. That's the ART interface. Just a reminder that ART is used by school districts to assign user roles for the interim assessment reporting system, and can be used by administrators to create and maintain digital library accounts. But of course, educators can self-register for the digital library. And this one I'm going to respond to separately. Okay.
This is one of my favorite questions. Does the CAST have an infinite number of questions? Wouldn't that be like a really twisted thing to do? But I know the pain point that they're referring to, which is the counter on the top of the screen kind of changing on students, and so sometimes it does feel like it's an infinite number. It's not. It is arranged in the segments that we referred to. Because of the segments and the field test block, as well as determining whether or not students in that field test block are getting additional discrete items or additional performance tasks, it is making it a little difficult for us to find a counter to put on the top of that screen for students to be able to monitor where they are on the test. Recognize that we know this. We've been talking to our contractors about it. In fact, we just had a little sidebar about it this morning, and trying to brainstorm some different ideas. So no guarantees that we'll be able to get that fixed this year. If we can't, we will just simply remove it. I'm hoping that even this yellow card hopes to motivate us to come up with even more creative solutions as we try and solve that one for you. Then I have this question. I'm not exactly sure what they're asking, but I'm going to give you this information. They're asking about locations of meetings. Maybe they're asking for the CASP Institutes. Those are in October. The CAST Academies are in October. There's a pre-test workshop that occurs in January. So what we have done is tried to consolidate where we notify you of our trainings and put all of that on CASP.org. Even if the training is not being provided by ETS, they have generously allowed us to use that website for trainings that are also being done by our partner SCOE. So you should now be able to go to one place and find out about different training opportunities.
Will there ever be trainings provided specifically for special ed directors, teachers, SELPAs, just on the administration of the CAAs and the designated supports available? This is a big need for us. We are working on many types of trainings, and of course, they are all, in terms of the SELPA directors, if you have the district superintendent designate another person specifically for the CAAs as a LEA coordinator, you could invite them to the trainings as well. But we are working with our contractor for various trainings, and the CAAs have a specific training that they have to take, especially the test examiners, in order to be certified to provide it. So they're welcome to take that one as well. Are there available parent letters to explain to parents the new report process that can be selected, especially the electronic and the safety and privacy of data for their child? Not yet, but it'll be coming in the near future. And can you elaborate on the ways to provide SSRs to families that withdraw? You may even either print or order the SSRs to be sent to their last available address, or extend their time for the portal access to that family.
Okay, Gary, wherever you are, there's nothing wrong with going to Clovis. We love Clovis, but you only have 7 spots left in Clovis at the training, so I don't think all these people can attend. So wherever you are, we heart Clovis. Do you have any more?
I actually do have one more question, actually a couple questions. So what grade level will be assigned to high school? And this is specifically for science, or is it a district decision? So you can administer the assessment, and that's the CAST or the CAA for science, and to high school students that are in grades 10, 11, or 12. If they've not taken the assessment by their grade 12 year, they are required to take the test. Districts can determine what grade to assess their students. They can assign an entire grade to take the test, or they can look and see when the student has finished their last science course, and that's when they would administer the assessment. So it's really up to the districts to determine how that goes, and we gave LEAs the opportunity with this field test to make the decisions about and test the systems before we went operational. So again, it's an LEA decision to determine when to administer the high school assessment for CAST and CAA for science. And I think I'll end on that one.
Okay, just real quickly, we did receive one more question about the user roles in ART and which user role is needed for teachers to view student results. There are 2 PII roles, it stands for personally identifiable information, that are options, and I'd recommend that you check out the user guide for details on which access each of those roles provides access to for teachers.
As Michelle's reading that one, I just have this one last one. Is online manual only for the coordinators or all users? It's for all users, and it's available for all users. Yes, it's not separated by role, but rather by topic.
Okay, I'll take this last one, I think. So the question really was about the rollover and the resources we have and how that may correspond to the fact that most of you are starting school, early August? Is that about right? The beginning of the school year in many cases. And the timing not quite lining up for that. So do know that there's a couple things going on. One, as we think about going computer-based with LPAC, we do have a different window. LPAC starts in July, right? So we are actively working as part of these negotiations to come up with solutions about how we have a start of the school year in July. Also know that just earlier this week, I believe, I started engaging in the conversation with the Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium about how we could get those interim assessment packages to us earlier so that we could have those to you truly at the beginning of the school year. In terms of the other resources that we have developed that you need in order to administer the tests, we are developing them as quickly as we can, and some of them we would like to have out to you earlier, and we're doing our best, and as time goes on, they will be, but in the first couple of years, things probably aren't as timely as we would like in all cases.